Hi. Um, so, just want to do a little update for you. I'm driving home on the Northway earlier today. Spent about 2 hours on the Northway. I guess there was a really bad accident that actually shut the Northway down. So I'm really glad to be alive. I'm also glad that uh, I wasn't involved in the accident and I didn't see it. And as I actually drove past this scene, they were just doing the final cleanup. So, I did get this surge of um, kind of like sadness and panic and, just some emotions. Um, at one point, not knowing yet that there had been an accident. In fact, I didn't know until I really came upon the scene that there was one, and then I checked the news when I got home. So that was like, that kind of wiped me out and really kind of messed up some plans. So I'm a little concerned about the challenges for this weekend. So tomorrow there's a ceremony that I'm going to. Um, it's going to be they're going to start like late afternoon and go into the evening. And then, because as I anticipated, there might be other house guests staying where I would normally just stay over if I'm too tired. But um, I think there's just going to be too many people trying to use limited bathroom space to get ready, and everybody's going to a wedding. so, so I'm like, yeah, I'll drive home. But that's another hour plus in my car driving home and then having to leave early and hopefully no traffic. So in addition to like at least 2 hours of my day totally shot where I was going to actually be working on a creative project for the wedding gift for the couple, um, I'm instead kind of wiped out from, having to be ready to inch forward with a car. Um, so that meant my arms got really tired, my legs got really tired. I have no air conditioning in my car. Um, and even with the windows all the way down, the sun was just, and there's no wind, when you're at a dead stop and you're like, so anyhow, I was like, at one point, I switched over to the radio, and they were singing Bhakti kirtan, devotional kirtan, um, which when I went to college, my idea of gym class was to live at the ISCON Center in Brooklyn for a short period of time and do a report on Bhakti yoga, which is devotional yoga, and so um, that's really where my um, it's hard to explain it, but I feel really grounded with that because it's just one of the first uh, spiritual um, things that I explored early on. And even before that, when I was homeless in Boston at the age of 17, they had, I think it was Commonwealth Avenue, they had the ISCON Center, and they would have a free vegetarian meal every Sunday. And all you had to do was be available for the kirtan or the sankirtan. And so, that's like very grounding to me. So I really just felt really good to hear um, some of the devotional singing and a variety of artists. I actually tuned in. When I tuned in, it was very traditional, and then they actually got some very modern um, singing as well of the devotional um, music for the like Vaishnu and Hinduism, Krishna, Govinda, Amrita. So that that helped the drive, but I am feeling a little wiped out. So I went to my primary care physician this morning, and um, she wanted to see the video that I posted. We're documenting all the the ptosis. So, which I believe I previously posted. So she saw that and she's like, wow. And this is like, it's like this, how often is it like this? I'm like, every day. I wake up and there's little or no ptosis, end of day, my lids start looking like I've been, drinking or whatever. And it's gotten so that it's in both eyes now, but it's usually the left eye that's predominantly affected. So it's asymmetrically bilateral. I also, talked about the, how a dysphagia could be contributed as a symptom of myasthenia gravis. And my concern, because I've had some issues with swallowing recently, not big, very mild, like being aware that I consciously swallow spit during the day, because there have been times where, like right now I just swallowed, where I've actually coughed because of that. Or a couple nights ago it was juice, and then last night I had gluten-free wrap and I put some balsamic glaze on that, and I was eating that and it got stuck in my throat. So not bad, again, just a little cough, and I was like, get my, speaking of which, seltzer. Water's probably better, but so anyhow, so all that, and so I expressed my concern that while the ophthalmologist obviously is seeing through the lens or the filter of ocular myasthenia gravis, which both he believes, my neurologist strongly believes, and I showed her the letter that I had from him, because he responded back after seeing the video like, yep, we're still that's very much what we're thinking it is. I'll see you in September. We'll retest. And then, if anything comes up in the meantime, please call. And so my primary care physician was very excited, because she's like, she's like, this would explain everything. Myasthenia gravis would explain everything. That's been going on, that she's been kind of like, what do we do with this? And I also brought in a couple of people had written some letters on my behalf, kind of for disability, which got denied, and now I'm in some sort of limbo with appeals process, and that'll be another year before I hear anything, I'm sure. So I read some of the highlights from the letters, like trouble cutting my food, sometimes holding a coffee cup, going up the stairs, having to walk around a grocery store. So, I kind of hit the highlights, and she's like, wow, really? And I'm like, what part of 3 years of telling you I can't function, lady? Do you not understand? So between now the video, the letters that other people have written, it's kind of like, a lot of people, when they go to the doctors, they have their significant other. Well, I don't, there's no other in my life. So I guess I'm not significant to anyone. Or I'm not significant to anyone who's single and available and well matched for me. Let's really just put it all out there, that I would feel comfortable with. So, so in any case, definitely the camera's become my advocate, and so she's excited, because she thinks if I have a diagnosis, she's like, have they talked medication yet? And the answer is yes, of course. The neurologist have already told me that he does administer the tensilon test, which is kind of unusual, because it can cause some problems where it's like clear, or I don't know exactly all that happens, but it's the reason why they don't really do it anymore is because there can be some pretty significant issues with administering tensilon. And because I wasn't fully ptosis, and I felt pretty strong, I wasn't that symptomatic, it didn't seem to even make any sense at that point to do it. I mean, if I had, really bad ptosis, then it would make sense. Or if I were particularly weak in my muscles, then I probably, then yeah, maybe it makes sense. And then see, give it 10, 15 minutes and see what happens. So, of course, so we also talked about medication, the fact that, I'm like, no medication, you don't understand, gallbladder surgery, no medication, kidney stones, no. Well, I mean, gallbladder surgery, obviously I had, they had to give me medication because they had to intubate me, and they actually had to knock me out, I guess. But I didn't have any narcotics, and with the kidney stones, hi Kristen, I love you, thank you. That was a mess, and I didn't have any narcotics for that either. So, and I'm not taking any medication for the fibromyalgia. So the neurologist was actually really cool with that, because he's like, the side effects. He's like, the medications used to treat myasthenia gravis, he's like, are just so toxic. So he's like, the longer you can go without having to take the medication, the better. Of course, the problem is, if I have ocular myasthenia gravis, then it can become generalized, and then there's an increased risk for myasthenic crisis, which is high. You're in an emergency room or intensive care unit, and you possibly have a port for a feeding tube, and or you might be ventilated to have assisted breathing, and or plasma exchange, and or intravenous immunoglobulin. So it's serious. A myasthenic crisis is serious. So, a lot of times, if it's ocular myasthenia gravis, they'll administer medications as soon as they really have that diagnosis confirmed, because for some people it doesn't progress to general. But with some of the symptoms I have, with the fatigue and the weakness, the dysphagia that I've had, my voice sometimes gets affected. Like right now, my voice is very like raspy. It hasn't gotten here, and it hasn't really trailed off. But I did have, I have. It's potentially correlated. So, so right now we have a working diagnosis. My primary care physician, the neurologist, and the ophthalmologist are kind of all on board with, yeah, it's myasthenia gravis would probably be it. Which, if you're going to have a rare disease, that's the one to have, because while they don't know necessarily what causes it, they understand how it works in most cases. And then there's some other cases like anti-MuSK, which that's another thing that I'm concerned of, because some of the symptoms that I'm having, the fact that I'm in my 4th decade of life and I'm female, everything else, and that I'm currently seronegative for the acetylcholine test, means I could have the anti-MuSK version, which does have a worse prognosis, and has to be treated with different medications, which are even more toxic and more bad. So, it's, my neurologist was like, well, you didn't test for that, but you don't want that. And I'm like, I don't want myasthenia gravis, period. I don't want any of it. I want to be out having fun, enjoying my life, and hiking, and working and doing things, and having a social life, and singing, and being able to like clean my house instead of looking around and going like, there's a lot of stuff to pick up, and I just don't have the energy right now, so I'm just going to sit in my chair and make a little video. So yeah, there's a lot I'd like to be doing. But, right now we're kind of hopeful. So I guess the last day of September is when I go back to the neurologist. And then, of course, there's probably going to be a lab appointment, and then have to wait for results, and then maybe even a follow-up after that. So unless something comes up between now and then that, I have had some progression, but, I haven't, my legs haven't given out from underneath me. Knock on bamboo, or something that resembles something that was standing tall. So unless something major comes up, then I think we're looking towards fall of probably having to start medication. But obviously, if something major comes up before then, then that'll happen sooner. So I'm looking at medical alert IDs, because I also have the reactive airways dysfunction syndrome, which is just way problematic all the time and very socially isolating. And I have problems going anywhere in public now, and it's just, it's not getting better. So I have that. I have, multiple allergies to medications. I've got food sensitivities. I've got, obvious big chemical sensitivities with the fragrance and perfume, cologne, and all that good stuff. So, so medical alert. I'm gonna be wearing a fashionable medical alert bracelet. So they had this leather one that was like the comfort stretch, and I was like, oh, that looks so cool, because there's a little bit of a wider band and it's got some elastic to it, and it's just the right color, except I think the plate with the information is too small for the big highlights of what really needs to be included, in case I end up not able to communicate for one reason or another. Long video. It's going to take forever to upload. But I did shower yesterday, and I'm feeling kind of okay today. I know it's been a while since I've done one of these. And it's mostly just been like, ooh, my eyes. But it's good, because that's actually advocated for me. That's been my medical advocate. So my primary care physician says to portal her in the meantime, just keep her apprised of, any changes or occurrences, or if anything significant comes up. So and same with the ophthalmologist, if anything significant comes up. So, so we're kind of tracking for all that. So, so the working diagnosis is myasthenia gravis. So if you don't know what that is, you type in MYASTHENIA space GRAVIS. And you can learn more about myasthenia gravis. It's a rare disease that affects maybe 20 people in 100,000. So I'm not 1 in a million, but I might be 20 in 100,000. All right.